Okie doke. Welcome. Call 11. So in the final third of the book club now. And to kind of recap where we've been over the last few weeks. We've finished the portion of the book that's really digging up what the paradigm of systems is all about versus the paradigm of mind. And we've shared some discussions and ideas and insights around that. Um, and that kind of covers the kind of what I see as sort of the concept segments. Like, right, there's this really cool thing. We have all begun to play with it as well. Um, and then we've zeroed in on the specific areas in our lives that we think we would benefit from playing with systems more. So over the last couple of calls, the majority of people have shared what they want to focus on for the remainder of this book club, and what areas of their lives they want to zoom in on and start to play with. Um, so for this segment of the book, part two, which is kind of this conversation piece between Trevor and Steve, the pages for this week's call, the main thing that jumped out to me, and it was a bit of a reminder to me, to be honest, as well, is the practice element of systems, which I see as applying not just to systems, but to any area of this kind of work. You can apply that to insights that we have as well. There's a coach, Sachin. I'm paraphrasing and probably getting the words wrong, but I think he's kind of got a fuck your insights, what are you doing about it kind of thing. It's like it's all cool to realize these things, but how's the integration going? What action are you taking from these insights? And so that's inspired a portion of the what I'd like to do for a portion of the call today, which is to spend a few moments reflecting on how the practice of your systems is going. So we'll spend a couple of minutes here at the top, and I'd love to hear from as many people on the call as possible, myself included. Um, let's use this as an opportunity to check in. How is the practice of the systems going? How's the integration of everything that we've learned or realized over the last few weeks? How's that going? How well do we think we are working the systems or using the systems? It might be that we're practicing and we're playing and we're realizing what systems don't work. We're course correcting and making tweaks and changing things. It might be that this has completely changed the game out the box and amazing things are happening. It might be that we realize um, that we aren't using the systems or plugging into them or working the system, and that's okay as well. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you all, how the practice of the systems is going. How are you integrating the paradigm of systems into your lives? Karen.
Sorry, I couldn't see where to raise my hand. Um, so I'm doing okay, but not brilliant, I would say. And I realized reading the first bit of this that I've not built evaluation into my system. So there is evaluation going on all the time, and it's called self-criticism, but not from oh, let me look at how my system's going. It has been a little bit more personalized. And there was a bit at the end of our little bit that we were reading where it says about um, when we personalize it, make it my or say I am and stuff. Um, and it's personal ownership. And that is always meant to be such a good thing, isn't it? Like, oh, own your shit, man. Like that's where empowerment comes from. But personal ownership also means personal blame when it's negative, which is disempowering. So I'm noticing when not to beat myself up.
Mm.
And I've noticed I was doing very well with my exercising until some things came up and I realized that if I don't do it by 9:30, it ain't going to get done. It's not going to get done. So it has to be done before 9:30. Otherwise, I'm going to think about it. I should do that. I could do that. And then I'll do something else. And then you can't exercise too close after dinner. And then I haven't got a window to do it in and then blah, blah, blah. So I've realized, so that's something that it was working and it wasn't working. And it was working when it was before 9:30. So that's a good thing. That I now know I can do something about that.
Mm.
I'm definitely scheduling in friends and fun. And because I had my F's, my friends, fun and focus, and no feast or famine. And I'm not doing so well. I'm still noticing some all or nothingness coming because I got on a real mission with the flat. I was really like tearing through that. And I noticed that other things I was letting drop. And I thought, oh, I've gone into all or nothing again. So I suppose the good thing is I'm noticing it.
Mm.
And, but, I'm doing better than I was. But what I would say is like I'm on a journey and I'm nowhere near the end of it, but I'm a hell of a lot further on than I was at the beginning, being honest.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I love that. Love that. I love what you said about you notice you haven't built evaluation into your systems and that it still takes the form of self-criticism.
Yeah.
The stepping over the bridge into that paradigm of mind. It's like there's some personal deficiency here. Hmm. Could you say a little bit more about what building evaluation into your systems might look like?
Well, I think I could put some time because I have to work with a diary, otherwise nothing gets done. So I could put something into my diary and have a weekly, let's see, with no judgment, how did this week go?
Hmm.
What went well, what didn't go well, what could I tweak for next week? Rather than this nagging, oh, didn't work out today, did I? That kind of thing.
Hmm.
Because I just need to have it in there so that it happens systematically, regularly.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that. So building in reflection time, what's working, what's not working. And then again, I really appreciated the reminder in this segment of the book, like don't skip the first step. Which again, I'd quite easily forgotten about. It's like dial into what is the current system before moving into right, what is the next thing. So I wondered like how conscious are you at the moment? With tuning into okay if something's kind of not working quite in the way I'd like it to, um how much are you tuning into what the current system is?
I don't know. I'm see, it's one of those tricky questions because you don't know what you don't know and you don't see what you don't see. So
Mm.
there could be loads of blind spots that I'm not seeing as a system that I'm not tuning into. Um, I would say I'm quite pleased with on one side, shouldn't shouldn't put any emotion with it, but I am pleased at how far I've come and looking at systems. Also, have to admit, I forget that I'm running systems all the time, sometimes as well. So, how am I doing? Better than I was. I will all say.
No, I love that. I love that. And that's why I wanted to run this call in this way when I read that first bit about practice. It's like, right, this might be a really useful point in the book club to bring that up as a reminder. Because again, it's quite easy to forget. There's we've been looking at this for a few weeks. There have been many years previous to that where we perhaps haven't had this in the toolbox to play with. And again, it's part of the integration. It's part of making it something that we see more clearly when we look around us or when we look at ourselves, look at what we want to create.
Yeah, there's definitely integration's a good word, isn't it? Because at the moment, it's a conscious thing that I'm doing. It's not automatic. And if I'm not seeing it, that's because I've defaulted back to my old way of being. So I would say I'm not fully integrated into this yet.
Hmm. Awesome. Love that. That's great. We've got a few weeks left, so happy days.
Yeah,
Is there any more that you want to add?
no, not right now. Thanks.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Lyndon, welcome. Good to see you.
Hello. Sorry, I'm a bit late.
No, thank you. Thank you for I saw your message, so thank you for letting
Yeah, no, Sophie gave me a call because she was arriving like just as the call was starting, so I just quickly had to run outside and shepherd her into our hard to find driveway.
all
But
good.
she might join. She might join in a little bit. She's just been driving for 4 hours, so she's settling in a little bit first.
Thank you. Thank you. Tracy, just before we move in quickly, Lyndon, I'll share this with you this is what we're looking at the top of the call, so give you a chance to reflect. Um, the segment that we read this week, the thing that jumped out to me was the element of practicing systems. And so the question simply is, how is the practice of your systems going? How well are we all integrating it? Um, are we working the systems? So it's kind of a check-in, kind of a reminder, and seeing where we're at with that. Tracy.
I think I've had a very similar week to Karen, to be honest.
Mhm.
I thought my systems were in place, getting on with them, and they were all rolling along really smoothly. And then I had a really pressurized, difficult weekend, which meant I defaulted then back to old habits, old routines. And I didn't notice till after that I'd actually done it. All right, I noticed it after, but while I was in the throes of all that, all my systems just went out the window. It didn't work because I wasn't using them, but it was just sort of, it was almost like if I get stressed or so all of a sudden something serious happens or too much happens in one go, my systems aren't ingrained in me enough yet to be relying on them. And for me to default, a bit like what Karen was saying, really, to actually then naturally follow those systems, because perhaps I wouldn't have got into the state I got into if I'd stayed with my systems. And a couple of weeks back, I was so pleased with myself. And it sounds silly, but I was, because everything was ticking over and I was really having, much better results from putting the systems in. But it just goes to show that they're not embedded yet, because they just, at the first major hurdle, they fell. And looking back, I know why it happened, but it's a reminder that we have to keep going with this. We have to keep practicing these systems in order for them to become an automatic thing for us to do, and something that we find easy to do. We've got to really think about how that becomes part of me rather than being something I use. How can I embed that into being part of me? So when stress comes along or something happens, I don't then default back to the old ways.
Mm.
Because that, for me, I was making such good progress. And I tried not to be cross with myself, but it was of my own choosing to go down that rabbit hole of the stress rather than turning around and looking at the systems. And a bit like Karen said, a lot of what she said resonated with me. My brain didn't go, what about your systems? It just went, into that. I've got to do this, and I must just go and do that, and I'm blah, 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 blah. And I went round that circle, which I haven't done for a while. So that was a bit of a shock, but it did show me, and I learned from that I need to find a way, or I would like to try finding a solution to getting those systems more naturally within me, so that when I know I go into stress, I can rely on them to stay in place. And that was one of the things I put down on my sheet, was the systems are great, but I'm not good at maintaining these things. And I would love to find a solution to maintaining those systems, because when I'm in the systems, they're amazing. The productivity I get is great, and the being present is all there. But as soon as something stressful comes along, my brain doesn't think to use them.
Is it kind of a sense of disconnecting from the systems, like being sucked out of them, kind of? Is that what we're talking about? Losing sight of them?
Yeah, I think losing sight of them is the right word, actually, because I didn't what I would, prior to that, not being in stress, I would have been looking at my diary every day. I'd have been looking at the number of things I was doing that day to make sure I wasn't doing too many. And those 3 days, I didn't do that for a number of reasons, for family pressures and for expectations on my part. I now realize there were expectations on my part to get certain things done. But I walked away from my diary and my system of what I rely on, which was my choosing, I realize now. But reflecting on that, I would like to have some way of, when all that stress happens, or when I've got a too full diary, of going, hang on, step back, slow down. Let's look at this before we go headlong into the headlights, if you see what I mean.
Okay. Was there a sense of, tricky to put into words? I'm wondering if there's a sense of a big speeding up and an urgency and a panic and a running ahead that was going on, as opposed to what.
Yes.
And it's like create the space and take a moment.
Yeah, I forgot to do that bit.
Yeah. I'm also getting the sense that you're observing and treating this thing as something to learn from. Like you are learning from it. You're like, even this, and this is, I think, again, cool language or cool perspective from the paradigm of systems. It's like, this is useful data. Even this, it's like, even though the experience isn't particularly nice or pleasant, even that's useful feedback and data that can be used. It sounds like you're using it in that way. Like, that's the sense I'm getting.
Very, very much so. Yeah. And only because hindsight's great, but after it, on the Monday, after I'd had that weekend, my state of mind, and I took some time to just chill, and it all dawned on me, and I noticed the steps of what had happened for that to happen. So I now know next year, when it comes to this time of year, to organise my diary now, and even put a reminder in there to say, remember last year. And in that way remind myself that I don't want to do what I did last year for next year. And I think that's the solution to that. But I'm still very mindful that the systems just slipped away very quickly, and they're not an ease and flow thing at the moment.
I'm really curious how it's been since. What are we? Okay, Monday. So, what's it been like this side of the weekend? Specifically, this is really relevant to what I'm playing with at the moment with systems. Like, how has been the plugging back in after something like that?
A huge relief, if I'm really honest, because I woke up this morning and I knew I was on the book club tonight, And I realized that actually I didn't have to do any work. If I wanted a normal working day, I didn't have to do any work till about 11 o'clock in the morning.
Mm.
And before I'd have gone, no, I need to do the business work. I'm going to do that now. So it's already done. But the reasoning I got from what happened before was you're working too hard. You need to slow down. You need to really think about your boundaries again.
Mm.
And it was very much, well, I don't need to start work till 11. What can I do for me for a couple of hours this morning, rather than working, rather than doing something that drains energy from myself? What can I do for me that will give me some sort of pleasure so that when the rest of the day I work really well? And in fact, I did. I went down into town, had a mooch around the charity shops, went and got some birthday cards, and came back. And actually, in the shorter time I worked this afternoon, I got so much more done because of my headspace, because I'd slowed right down to breathe and be present. What I got done this afternoon was incredible. And it wasn't loads, but I was able to think clearly. I was able to focus on what I was doing. And by the time I had my conversation with Jane, I've not got to do any work when I finished off this book club at all, because I'm ready. I'm ready for tomorrow and I'm ready for Wednesday and Thursday because I've slowed down. And your words went through my head because you've talked a lot about slowing down, particularly in this book club and in other book clubs. And it sounds counterintuitive. And I was talking to Jane about this. To slow down, you actually make more time by slowing down rather than chasing your tail and going trying to get everything done. And the difference I feel in my body and in my mind this evening, where I've given my space and I've given myself permission to have those couple of hours to myself this morning, my brain is in a completely different place. My mindset and the feel of my body is in a completely different mindset to where it's been previously when I've been on the book club. So that's been a real eye-opener for me because I want more of that. So therefore, I'm going to really think about my boundaries and how to stop getting into that tailspin so that doesn't happen. Because I worked out an 8-hour day was from 11 till 8 or whatever it was. I worked out that if I started work at that time, when I finished on the book club, that was my working day. That was what I was doing today. And I wasn't going to do any work outside of those times. Whereas a couple of weeks ago, I was thinking, I need to get this done and I need to get that done. And that has been off the back of having that manic weekend where my body said to me, don't do this anymore. You can't keep doing this. You've got to stop. And that was a real eye-opener to actually reflecting on things and getting where I needed to be, I think.
I'm going to really underline what I just heard there, which is that sounds to me like a perfect example of tweaking the system in real time based on slowed down introspection, like slowed down, actual tuned in listening to what your body is telling you, what you know you need right then. It's like, do you really need to yeah, okay, there's a system and there are certain hours and blah blah blah. It's like, and that's great. That's working, let's say the majority of the time, but we're not machines. It isn't a plug in and like switch on, right, switch off. We do not function like that at all. And so again, back to that Power of Now-esque chapter that I think the last chapter of the first part of the book is pointing to is also, well, there's a built-in system, like a guidance system that is also telling you. And it sounds to me like you've beautifully combined creating systems and playing with them and slowing down, tuning in and listening to what you need, and then tweaking in real time. I think that's
Yes, yeah. But I learned to I had to come via it after a harsh lesson, mind.
all the best stuff is usually after a difficult lesson. Yeah. No, that's yeah, that's awesome. Really awesome. Can I ask? I heard you mention boundaries a couple of times there. Can I ask you a question about that?
Yes, yeah.
Is is that an area where um there are systems that can be created, that can be played with?
I think the phrase is I'm practicing them.
Mm.
Yeah, it's always been boundaries has always been a difficult issue for me, for a number of reasons, and that is changing slowly in my mindset and through books I'm reading and things. But I do find boundaries particularly hard. But having the systems book has really helped me look at, well, most people do an 8-hour day. So when is my 8 hours? Is that 11 till 7 in the evening? Is that 8 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon? Only do your working hours. And then for me, that's a safeguard to not getting burnout. So it's a system in play for me. So my brain goes, oh, you're on the book club tonight. So actually, we've got a few hours this morning, which should be my time to do something for me, because then the rest of the day I will be working, but that I can still achieve in that 8-hour day what I'm supposed to do. So yeah, I think boundaries are beginning to play a lot more, and I could probably build a better system around boundaries than perhaps currently I've got right now.
Awesome. Yeah, love it. Love it. Is there any more that you'd like to share?
Oh, just the one thing. As soon as I read practice, 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 all I can hear is my dad telling me about my times tables when I hear practice, practice, practice.
Oh, I remember that. Not fun. 2's times table, fine. 5, fine. 7, not so fun. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, that's it.
Felt like a genius when I worked out the 11 times table.
Yeah, there's a few things that you shared there, Tracy. Stuff around boundaries again. Like I'd say I relate in that. Yeah, but being careful not to identify with the thought too much. But yeah, what looks true is that the experience of boundaries has been one where, yeah, I can observe a rationalizing, a conversation that plays in my head that kind of sounds like a convincing voice. It's like, oh, it's only a one-off, or like, oh, it's okay. I'll just do it this one time for this client. Blah blah blah, whatever. Um, and of course, when you zoom out, you're like, hang on, man, this is a system that you're applying right across the board, and actually, this is just now how you do things. It's like that, and so it's something I'm playing around with. I'm changing kind of a bit of the structure around one-to-one coaching. I'm taking on a very small guitar teaching practice, like 5 students a week kind of thing. And I'm kind of going in a process of I'm looking over the last sort of decade of working in these areas, and not that long for coaching, but for teaching. Right, I've got all of this data to learn from, and the boundaries has been one of the biggest areas. Things around cancellation policies, things around payment policies, etc., etc., etc. And it's been a big reflection on like, okay, what are the things that I've tolerated in those areas? And the thing that I keep coming back around to is like, whose game do I want to play moving forward? It's like, do I want to keep playing other people's games, or do I want to get sucked into other people's chaos, or other other people's stories of like, oh, I couldn't make it and blah 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 blah. Blah. It's like cool, or do I want to play my game? And that feels edgy. That feels edgy because then that voice can come up and go, "Well, your game is wrong," or whatever. But I largely have an idea of how I like things to run, um, and a bit more of a toolbox set around creating agreements, etc., etc. So I'm just playing around with right. Whose game do I want to play? I want to make things work for me, particularly around scheduling, particularly around payment, particularly around cancellation, stuff that just helps everything be very workable and run smoothly. And then once the game's decided, it's like, what are the systems that I need to put in place to kind of Like when you go bowling and you put the guardrails up, it's like, what are my guardrails going to be that's going to keep the ball in the lane? Um, so yeah, that really resonates for me. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Um, and particularly around like plugging back into a system. I find kind of a pattern in the week at the moment is sort of the first half of the week is the artsy stuff, the stuff I really love, and stuff with the metal band and writing or making backing tracks, rehearsing, um, getting closer and closer to finding a singer, so kind of doing vocal demos, etc., with people. And then the second half of the week is going and doing the bill paying gigs. Um, and I find by the end of the weekend, I almost feel a bit sucked out of the artsy space and into the, oh, right, okay, this isn't so much the artist space, this is the professional space, and they kind of require slightly different things musically, etc. And so I'm Monday is a particularly, I suppose, important day of the week where I'm looking at the systems around like how do I play with Monday? Because that's kind of this plugging back into day. It's like, right, I've kind of done the bill paying side of things and I want to plug back into artist space and what happens there. That's really where I'm at the moment. That I'm still very much playing with that. But yeah, so something in what you were saying there around made me think around like feeling like you fall out of the system and how do you find your way back into it? What's your access back into it, plugging back in? So yeah, thank you. Does anyone else want to share? I'd love to hear how the practice or the working of your systems is going.
I've been doing a little bit, I suppose.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, if you looked at if you looked at the questionnaire thing, I put down one of the things I talked about on there was that it would probably be really easy to find a system in which I could fix my sleep schedule to be a little bit more not disastrous than it generally is. And I think like this time of year as well, like when getting up late means that like you get 4 hours, 5 hours of a day, and that's all you get of light. I've been sort of doing a bit of trying to move it, move it around the clock a little bit. Um, and I think I was also inspired by I think I think Tracy, it was what you were saying about morning systems or rituals, the cup of tea, and all of that stuff, like a couple of sessions back. And so I thought, oh, you know what, cup of tea sounds like a good system. I'm gonna try and implement this. I'm going to I have, because I use the alarm clock on my phone, which I think is, and I use my phone like playing some bullshit on YouTube to fall asleep to. That's like it's kind of like unfortunately very good system for me to fall asleep is just to have some astronomy video or something on YouTube to like background noise me to sleep. But yeah, so I've moved my alarm clock next to the kettle, and I like set up my cup and like always. And the system is to wake up at like 9, regardless of when I go to sleep, and make a cup of tea, and then put on. I've made a list of inspirational albums on my phone that I have. Like the night before, decide on an album, just cue that up on Spotify or whatever. Cup of tea, sit on desk chair, have tea, and just listen to the album. Um, and that is a system that so this is the design of the system, pre-designed. You know, you got to experiment and play with this. And I found it to be like pretty good. It's a pretty good system. I think the hard 9 doesn't work because I've been getting up at like 7 some days, and then other days I've been up really late or whatever, and it's completely failed, and I felt like, oh no, I failed the system. But it's also like I don't know, I don't. It's not a big issue if I don't know. I don't really have like I don't have like a shame response not to doing it. I think because it's like doing it is like the plus, and not doing it is like okay, well, we can get back to it. what I mean by that, I think it's like the playfulness and the experimentation aspect of it makes it much less, makes the stakes lower without making the execution harder or like less pressing, I guess, in a way that's quite nice. So yeah, that's been my main practicing system, my intentional experimenting system thing has been working that shit out. And it's going quite well. I think like the last like week at least I've sort of well, I think it's made it much easier to go to bed. Like doing that in the morning has made it much easier to not even have to think about going to bed earlier because I'm like tired, which you would expect, I guess. Like I'm tired, I go to bed at like 11 because I've been waking up at 7 or 8 or whatever. And then having my cup of tea, and then at that point I'm listening to the music. I'm like getting like trying to thinking about that stuff, maybe playing some piano, maybe doing something like that. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm up now. I might as well like just get out the door, go for a walk, like to the shop or whatever, get some bread. That's been, I don't know, it's not perfect yet, and I'm playing with it, but I think it's one of in terms of intentionally playing with systems, as is sort of outlined in the book, it's sort of one of the most successful ways that I've done that, like with that forward intention of it. Although I definitely think I have had more successful systems in the past. But
Specifically
yeah,
for sleep.
no. I've barely ever had systems for that before, unless the system is I have to get up because I'm working in the morning. Like, in which case, that is a system that works, but yeah, it's painful. Like that's the other thing. Is like I've just been waking up at this point. Like I set the alarm for like 9, and then because I work most of my work I do from home, and I can do it basically as long as it's done. It doesn't really matter. So at the moment anyway, hopefully not for long. But I've been waiting. Like I set the alarm for like 9, and then I wake up at like 7, and I feel like energized and stuff. Which is interesting because I know I have always kind of had that. Talking about like self narratives and stuff. I've always sort of thought of myself as just a rubbish person in the morning. It's like a night owly sort of person. Like I've always done all my work in the night. But I've been feeling like, yeah, I find it easier to do kind of chore tasks in the morning, I guess. Like stuff which I know how to do, I just have to sit down and do it, as opposed to like creative tasks, which is like it requires a lot more of myself, I guess, to do. Um, which I think I find a bit easier to do later on. But yeah, that has been, I don't know, I've rambled about this for too long now, but that has been my practicing with systems experience so far, the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, man, I remember reading your questionnaire, and
Yeah.
the way I remember you writing about sleep, it was kind of that what would be one thing that might unlock a lot of other things and make a lot
Yeah.
of things easier. And yeah, I'm totally in agreement with you in terms of like I think a lot of people people's moods and what they perceive as problems. If they slept enough and drank enough water, it's
Yeah.
to see how many of those things like
Yeah.
better. Same with eating food, etc.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like I'm hearing you play with it. I'm hearing you also bookending the sleep. It sounds like looking at what works in the evening. I love that you're playing with the morning inspiration. It's something I've
Yeah.
been playing with as well, and it's usually watching a live concert or something on
Yeah.
YouTube, and I put the speakers on. Like, yes, that's awesome. Um, so I'm curious if you have noticed any knock-on effects from, say, um, that a system for inspiration in the morning, or systems that are helping you get more.
Yeah. Weirdly, I think since I started doing that, I haven't. I think maybe I've been playing more music. Maybe I've been just sort of um, like picking up my instruments more, but I don't know if that's really related. I don't know, I think I've been playing more piano. I think that's definitely like I hear like hearing ideas or like sort of harmonic sort of things in music and then be like, oh, that's like an interesting kind of key change or something. I wonder how I'd recreate that. Like I've been doing a bit of that kind of in the mornings because I've got my computer and my piano like right there. That's my system for playing piano is have it right next to me, I guess. Yeah, in terms of I think the inspiration part of that is been it's been less I think it has done something. I don't necessarily think it's inspired me or like given me the kind of boom, let's get going to sit down and start doing music in the mornings. I think it has put me in a certain mindset that's been helpful otherwise. Like one of the like I've yeah, I don't know. Yeah, to kind of think of the knock-on effects so far, I think they're probably still materializing. I think I'm not seeing. I'm seeing. I think my mood is better.
Mm.
Um, I think for me personally, just because of the way my schedule normally works, just getting up out of bed in the morning, a tea, and then feeling awake in the morning, that's an achievement by itself. Because normally I like if I have to get up in the morning, I'm like up. Even if I've had like 8 hours sleep, I'm up. I feel terrible. I like forcing myself to do everything, and that's exhausting. It's like you start your day with like exhaustion, which I think a lot of people do, and that's not and you know, and then with whatever else you take that into, you're already exhausted. But I think doing it of my own accord and like because I want to, not from any pressure, which is a lovely privilege to have at the moment. I think that starting the day like that makes me get shit done better, it makes my mood better because you're starting the day with an achievement, you know.
Mm.
Which I think is probably one of the things that is really powerful about like the morning systems is that especially when you start doing it like or it's like you sort of tick up you start your day every day by ticking a box that's meaningful.
Mm.
So I think that's been really nice and I can see that being I can see that carrying forward. It's just I think with what I've been doing and the sort of things I've had going on at the moment, I just haven't had a lot of time and focus to sort of really sit down and get on with the sort of real creative stuff.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
yeah,
Man, I love this, and it sounds to me like um you're also creating something foundational that's really crucial to the whole thing as well.
yeah,
Kind of like the hierarchy of needs kind of thing. It's
yeah.
like you've got the creative endeavors, but then it's like how's the sleep?
Yeah.
How's the mood? How's the energy? You know, that's how's the feeling that you're in day to day.
I think it's still one thing that's interesting is that it still feels very much like an experiment. I think in the past when I've tried to like do all of this shit to fix my sleep schedule or like implemented all this crap like to make it work, there's been the underlying feeling has been a sense of kind of stress and then like shame. Like it feels like, oh, and also like kind of doubt. Like I think like coming into like I'm like, okay, well, I'll move my alarm or like do all whatever, and then you go into it and it works for like 4 or 5, maybe even like a couple of weeks, um, and then it falls apart. But like like, and I think there's been like I'm always have like this doubt that okay, I like because I've done it before and it hasn't worked. I'm like, oh, maybe like this is working right now. I better enjoy this while it lasts because eventually I'll fall back into the old rhythms. And that's kind of and like whereas right now I think because I'm kind of treating it like an experiment and a system, I'm like, you know, well, like there'll be days when I don't meet this, and then we'll try the system again and see if it works to get back. And like it's less like it's not even like I don't know if I really believe that I'm going to keep this going forever and it'll be like a big thing. But I also don't necessarily believe that I won't do that.
Mm.
It's like an experiment, you know. So it's like it's like a nice surprise when it does work. And then like if it doesn't work, then it's like, okay, well that's another data point. That's another why didn't it work this time? Like, yeah, there's been times when I've just stayed up too late and then the alarm goes off and I make my cup of tea and sit in front of the thing and then you know, then somehow I find myself back into bed and I wake up like 2 hours later. Like that's happened, but like I still tick the box though because I still did the rule, which is get up, make a cup of tea, drink the cup of tea, listen to some music. You know, it's still a success in some way. It's just like
Mm,
The
mm,
system worked to achieve the cup of tea. It just didn't work to achieve the not go back to bed. In those cases, I don't know. It's been more. It's felt much. I think this is part of this is a privilege in that I don't have to be up at like in multiple times in my life. So I've had to be up in like 6 a.m. every morning or like 5:30 a.m. every morning to make it into work on time. And I think there's a part of it is the privilege of being able to just do this on my own. And there's not really that many consequences of me failing to meet the demands of it, which makes it much more fun and less stressful or painful than it might be.
mm, mm. What I really heard in what you shared just there is a shift away from when something doesn't happen, it sounds like it's not being funneled into the box of evidence that fits a narrative or a belief that you've had around it doesn't happen, and more, this is a data point. This is something useful that I,
Yeah. I think it's like I don't really care about the evidence in this so much anymore. It's something that I've like. Which is weird to say. Like being rubbish at getting up in the mornings or being like a sleepy guy generally, like is something that has been so evident for so long that like I've just sort of accepted it to the point of neutrality. Like it's like okay, this is generally how things work. But like and that sounds negative, but it's a point at which like I don't really judge myself for that much anymore. Like
Mm,
I used to a lot, and now it's like, okay, that's just generally how things work. But and I think what the whole systems thing is, but like, well, that's achieved. And I've talked about this before. I think it's sort of been like, okay, well, just because that's how things work, that doesn't mean there's like some innate thing about whatever sort of about some. Yeah, that's not some innate description of some inherent one singular inalienable me that exists maybe it's no longer that. It's more like okay, well these are the systems of the past and like okay, I'm acclimatized to these systems, but like um there's room to play around with changing them, and I don't know, I think a lot of the judgment's gone basically. And I think that makes it much easier to try new shit.
mm. Awesome. Good work. Is there any more you want to share for now?
I think I have rambled for far too long.
Thanks for sharing, man. Thank you. Philip, Sam, do either of you want to share?
Um, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm on my phone and I can't work out how to like raise my hand, unmute my microphone. So, but I wanted to say off the back of what Lyndon was saying then about um taking away the judgment um from yourself and sort of like the beliefs that I surround myself is what I've sort of taken away most from systems. Like, so I'm not really one for um systems as such. And I think it was Karen that was saying before about how like don't like being told what to do. And like I don't even like being told like what to do like by myself. So even like the, the idea of being like the night before, like telling myself, all right, the system is I'm going to do this, and then I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So I've but what it has done for me is in smaller is like changing my mindset on things and sort of taking away that judgment and the belief that like oh it's something that's like bad about me. So like um a system that occurs a lot is that things build up and I do things at the last minute. And I've tried systems where I'm like, right, I'm going to be at the studio by 9 o'clock and I'm going to work until 5 o'clock. And like the phone rings, someone says like, "Do you want to go for lunch?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." So like system it's guaranteed to fail. So, but what? But the mind it's more of a the mindset mindset shift that's happened for me, in a sense where like that's okay. And when things do pile up and I'm doing things last minute and I'm working late or I'm doing something at a different time to like, what maybe like a different system would look like, um, is just sort of I don't get frustrated at myself anymore. So then I'll just be like, well, this is the current system and this is what's happening. And I've stopped being like, oh, for God's sake, Sam, you're just like, you always do this. It's always last minute. You wish you were doing something else. Like, and sort of like having that internal battle and like monologue with myself. And the same with other like stupid things as well. Like I've started cycling to into town a lot because I've gone back to studying and I'm cycling into Oxford Circus from the outskirts of London, and I hate everyone. I hate I hate people on bikes. I hate people in cars. I hate people on the pavement. Like, and honestly, it almost like has got me down like for the first like couple of weeks, and I was like, right, hang on, what's the like? So then I was like, oh God, I'm an angry person. So then I was like, actually, so what's the system at play? And then I was like, okay, so I'm just getting annoyed at every person that comes within like 2 feet of me. And I was like, that isn't a that that like it was just really getting me down. I know it sounds really stupid, but like now I've got a system where I play a game, and I have to, and it's basically a me versus the world. And the game is that if somebody does something stupid, I get a point, and if I do something stupid, they get a point. And it's made my journey into town so much like sort of more joyful because I've turned it into a game, and like that's been, I know that's not a direct like system. I wake up at this time, like in the sort of literal sense, but it's that it's just sort of to reiterate that like mindset shift that's it's worked for me to right, you're not an angry person. How can you like change your mentality of this like 35-minute cycle that you do into and out of town? Um, so yeah, that's the main thing. And sort of like feel like towards what the end of Lyndon was saying then, just about the mindset thing for me rather than a sort of literal system, if that makes sense.
Mm, mm. Well, what you've just pointed out, Lyndon, like a good example of flip it and reverse it, which I think it was Steve Chandler was writing about. Um, and Steve writes a lot about creating games, um, particularly around menial tasks or areas of like, do I really have to do this thing? Or what you're describing there is like, I fucking hate all of these people. You perfectly created a game where you have flipped it and reversed your experience of it.
I think you've actually fixed my understanding of that phrase and what it actually means because I was always a little bit unsure about that. But like you saying that, I'm like, oh, it's the thing. I get that. Which is like a lot of the what I think the most promising and like exciting systems that are described in the book are those little short ones, which are just a tiny little change of mind. There's like when you look at it, it's easy to do. Like create a little game, and then you completely refigure your understanding of a situation, your approach to it. So that's really cool. And the leaving things to the last minute and then having to change your system to be not, oh my God, I have to be more organized, but oh, let's just remove the shame and the self-loathing from doing
Yeah.
everything at the last minute. That's like the story of my fucking academic career, dude. That's crazy. Just giving up in a positive direction almost.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Love that, Sam. Yeah, I had a question. What you were talking about the last minute stuff. What I'm hearing there is you're experiencing a removal of the judgment.
hmm
that's attached to it. Um, I've got no attachment to what the right quote unquote right thing to do is, or what works for any person. A purely unattached question. Do you are you how do I put it into words? Do you want things to be last minute? So I'm hearing that there's a system where you've removed the judgment, and what I'm also hearing is that the last minuteness remains, and that's why I say I'm not attached to what works for you, but as a point of curiosity, do you want the last minuteness?
I don't think it's that I don't want the last minuteness, but what I do want, what I've realized, and like again, this is like, just the sort of analyzing it and the sort of um, looking at it as a system rather than a me problem. So the system of it being last minute is off the back of not enjoying the regiment of a system that I try to put in place, like right on a Friday, I don't like have to go in to um uh, the academy on a Friday, so I'm like, right, I'm gonna get up at 9 and do this and do that, and I'm gonna work till 6, and then so I don't enjoy that. So then, if off the back of my system of I will be more flexible with my working hours because that's what I enjoy and sort of like how I work best, knowing that I'm able to do X, Y, and Z if I choose to. And then if that means in the knowledge of knowing that I might have to sew like until 10, 11 o'clock in the evening, then it's because I've like chosen to do it rather than I think before I'd if I was doing it, I'd almost forget that I'd sort of like had a nice time and like been out for a 2 hour lunch with somebody or so it's just sort of yeah, I see my last minuteness or like sewing late or whatever it is that I'm doing as a choice,
Hmm.
like as part of like the system, almost like the system that has played out. Um so then if you look at like sort of even a past, I know we're sort of talking about systems in like a preemptive way. If you look at what the system that has happened that you were still essentially in control of, then it's still that removal of judgment. And rather than being like, oh well, I didn't do the like I haven't done it and now I'm sat here, so like doing it late rather than being annoyed at myself, I'm like noticing that it's like, well, that's the system and what you chose to do. So
Hmm.
then I'm now effectively choosing to do this last minute. Um, and I'm not, but I still don't sacrifice like quality or like any of those things. So yeah, I know we've had it like we've talked on a couple of our calls about like deadlines and that like pressure thing. So I think that's why it's been on my mind like this last week or so,
Hmm.
just about like doing better work under tighter deadlines and sort of embracing that. Um, and I've definitely sort of had a bit, I don't know, I just like feel a bit like better about it all. And I feel a bit sort of like lighter in just knowing that whatever I choose to do is a system, even though I've not necessarily preempted that system, because like the preemptive systems haven't sort of really worked for me personally,
Hmm. Hmm.
if that makes sense. I feel like I'm just talking now.
No, no, I think I'm gauging. I'll feed back to you and correct me if there's anything there. Like that. That's why I asked that question because I heard effectively there's been a change of experience around last minuteness,
Mm,
like your personal experience of it, but the last minuteness remains, and that's why I wanted to check because uh, it's nobody else's place to go, well, last minuteness is inherently bad. Look, I don't think that that's a thing. It's ultimately what works for each person. And I wanted to check where you were at with that. And what it sounds like is it's kind of it's become a choice because you've based it off what you see as working for you. Like you've tested the slightly more, say, regimented, this hour to this hour, and that's where I'm going to be for this time. It sounds to me like you've realized you don't particularly enjoy that.
hmm
You're going with what you enjoy. It sounds to me like there's an awareness that there within the territory of those of the how do we call it, slightly more flexible with timings, or flexible with the schedule of the day. It sounds to me like you're very aware that within that territory there can be created some last minuteness, but because you're aware of it, you've chosen it because you're like, well, actually I really enjoy structuring my time in this way. This thing doesn't work. I think I'm hearing that.
Yeah, no, but you basically just put it into a much more cohesive way. Thank you very much. But no, I don't want to change it. It's not something now that I'm looking at and being like, I don't want to do it last minute, but yet it is last minute and getting frustrated. So it's sort of like a yeah, um, just or I don't want to say the word acceptance because that makes it sound like it's a bad like I don't feel like it's a bad trait of mine that I feel like I've had to learn to accept. It's now a system that I choose, and therefore it's okay.
Right. That's an awesome way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Is there any more you want to share?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Love it. Philip, is there anything you want to share?
I can share.
Would love for you to share.
Okay, cool. So my experience of systems over the last weeks, I think I realized that actually intuitively I've been kind of leaning towards creating systems like for years. I think of it like trying to reduce entropy, right? Trying to reduce things that create chaos. Um, and I've also been kind of I think letting go of things that I know that are just like if the system doesn't work, like okay, just let it be. Like for example, a couple of weeks back, I was doing like fitness every day, but the amount of time and energy that I was putting into doing that when I have a lot of other things I'm trying to prioritize, I kind of just let go of the fitness thing for the time being. I mean, I'm still active and I'm not in bad shape, so I'm not like, like oh, this is a terrible thing. I'm kind of like, okay, this isn't the priority right now. The priority is to improve my business and just sort of build up my life in general. So I've been putting energy into just trying to get things more organized. So like yeah, in a lot of different areas in life at the same time. But I kind of feel like I'm making a lot of solid improvements. There's a lot of little things, and it's a constant ongoing process. And I realize that sometimes I think sometimes I get a little bit stuck in perfectionism. Like I'll take way too long to get something into a state of to build the system into such a way that I'm really like this is a really great system. Um, but I think that there's something good about that because it means that when I do something that I do it to a high standard. Um, so I think I'm just kind of rolling with the flow of how I am improving things. Like I don't know, little things. I mean, things around the house. Like for example, maybe I organized my area in the kitchen. I organized my clothes drawer. I organized my other stuff. Then there's stuff on my computer. Like I'll spend like some time going through my email inbox and unsubscribing from things and deleting emails. Then I'll go into like my desktop and doing this, or then I'll put more time into my business and try to solidify little processes. Um, so yeah, I definitely see the power, the importance of systems, and I think I'm just intuitively applying that to lots of different things
Hmm.
at the same time. And when I see that something isn't working, I'm kind of not being judgmental about it. I think I am a chaotic person, and I'm okay with that. I think, um, yeah, I've found a lot of acceptance in just sort of accepting that I am chaotic with a lot of things, and that can actually be a good thing.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah,
I'm really curious about that last thing you said. Like,
yeah.
can be a good thing. What 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 are you seeing in that for yourself?
Um, well, one part of it is that I think more creative people tend to be more chaotic, but that's usually, I think, sometimes just an indication of doing things in a specific way, which I think having resistance around that ends up causing me more discomfort. Like for example, if I'm like, okay, right, from now on, I'm waking up at 8 every morning. I have to go to sleep at 11. I'm gonna wake up at 8, and I'm gonna do training, and then I'm gonna do an hour on the piano. Like I had this dream for ages. I was like, I'm gonna wake up every day at 8 or 9, and then like do an hour training and do an hour on the piano before midday. And like I think maybe I had one of those days once or twice. Every other time it would be like something comes up, somebody calls me, I'm messaging, I go to sleep late because I was out, and then like life's chaotic, and that's okay. Like the other day, for example, I went to a concert of my friend, and then the concert was meant to finish at 10 p.m. And I thought like, okay, so I'll probably be home by midnight. But then all of the people, all the musicians were kind of hanging around and talking. I ended up talking to the people that organized the venue, and I said, "Could I perform here?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure. Let's talk about it." So, but had I just been like, "Right, it's 10 o'clock. I'm going to bed. I'm going home. I'm going to bed," then I wouldn't have had that conversation. And I ended up getting home like past midnight. And then because I got home past midnight, I ended up waking up late the next day. So like being anal about it, like, oh, I've got to go to bed at this time, I've got to wake up at this time, and I've got to do this and this. It's like, no, today I woke up at 11. I was like, okay, no pressure against myself. Did my stuff, like had breakfast, got dressed, and then I got on my computer and did a lot of work. And I made some good progress on that. I did a lot of other things as well. So the fact that I think is like this optimistic voice that's like advocating for systems of like it's got to be like this, like this, like this. Every day I'm gonna read, every day I'm gonna run, every day I'm gonna train, I'm gonna practice, I'm gonna do all of this stuff, and that never works out. And then having like beating myself up over that just doesn't. It's not productive. So I just accept it and let it go, and try to improve orderliness where I can.
What opens up for you when you accept it, and kind of the sense I'm kind of picking up on is a bit of a like falling back into, a bit of surrendering into.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering like what opens up for you when you kind of give yourself permission to fall into that.
Um, I see it like there's a lot of specific things that I'm trying to synchronously, like I'm more or less 30 years old. I'm 33, and I'm kind of like, okay, right, what do I want in my life? I want to have money. I want to have, a house. I want to have a family. I want to be in good shape. I want to have a good career. I want to be well read. A couple of different things in life, and I'm like, all of these things take a lot of time and effort, and it's not going to be like, maybe if I was like just training to run a marathon and that was all that I'm spending my time on, then it'd be like, right, that's one very specific singular task and I can do that. But because I'm trying to chip away at a lot of things at the same time, I kind of just realized that to build into the systems that I want in everything is just going to take time. And I'm allowing that flow. Like, for example, a couple of days ago, I organized my shelf in the kitchen. And that was bothering me for ages, but now that's done. Now I'm, for example, improving my enrollment process. So I'm developing like a checklist kind of thing, and like really thinking through that, and that's important as well. And then once that's done, then I'm also planning out my performance repertoire. And then once that's done, all of these things, once they're done, they're kind of going to be quite finished. I picture this hypothetical place. I hope it's not hypothetical. I hope it's a real place. At some point in the future where all of the systems that I'm really dreaming of or desiring in my life will be grounded in reality, will be in effect to some degree. And then in that visionary moment in the future, then I might be able to be like, right, I wake up every day at 8 and I do training and I eat like this, and and I do like 2 hours piano practice, and then because the systems will have been like, because there won't be like this level of chaos of this takes my time, takes my time. I think to answer your question, by accepting it, I think part of my subconscious, part of my mind is kind of just doing things in its own way. And that's important for that to happen.
I love it, mate. Love it. Good to see. Really good to see. I get the set. Yeah, I get a sense of working with yourself here.
Not
You,
against.
yeah, you are a team, and it's like it's important that, again, back to like whatever systems, they've got to feel like you. They've got to be come from you. And again, I think it's quite interesting to notice. I find these videos really, really funny, where it's kind of like waking up the night before for the morning after, and these kind of like wake up at 2 a.m., plunge your entire head into an ice bucket, rub banana peel all over your face, and just kind of this sort of psychotic morning routine that begins at 2 a.m.
I love that video so much. It's so funny.
It really makes me laugh. And then I think this particular one, every clip he'll be in his business meetings, oh, we got to do 10K today, bro. And I don't know if it's satire or if it's real, or if it's real with such a high level of self-awareness it's also satire.
It's definitely fake, but I don't think it's satire. I think it's like a grift. I think he's trying to sell something. I don't know.
It's yeah, and you see these things.
Yeah. Actually, if I can chime in there, I think a little part of that is that I have this unrealistic expectation because I watch too much motivational videos and these guys on the internet that are like, I wake up 4:30 every morning and I punch myself in the face 4 times and then I run 2 marathons and then I eat like 74 eggs. And it's like, yeah, that's just an internet video. That's not reality.
I love that.
None of these guys are doing that shit, man. It's all a grift. It's all like it's all kayfabe.
And I think there's something in this day and age. I think learning to recognize a confidence trick when we see one, like often these kinds of things are spoken with such a level of certainty in Like they are seriously enrolled in whatever that it is that they're selling. And so that certainty comes across around like if you want this, you have to be doing this. And interestingly, I notice, and I'm completely open to being challenged. Maybe I only see it because it's what the algorithm shows me. I see a lot of it targeted towards men. It's like men, if you
Yeah.
do this, then you have to this. If you're going to provide, you have to this. And there's this big checklist, and it's always usually a picture of a guy with an eight pack and all of this stuff, or talking a lot about earning, etc. And as I say, it might be obviously I'm a man and my algorithm is going to be curated and show me whatever. So I'm totally open to being corrected, but I see a lot of that style of thing being targeted towards men, and
That's why I put my hand up part of it. It's because it's a product. They're selling a image of masculinity that benefits a lot of companies and a lot of brands and a lot of a lot of politics even.
Mm, mm,
It's a really profitable grift,
mm.
and it's also fake in large parts. Although I think there are some valuable. I
I
wasn't the first.
think yeah, I think there's some value to it, but it's a little bit blown out of proportion. I think like men, right? I mean, this might be such a blanket statement, but men, as men or as people, we should be aspiring to self-development. We should be aspiring to improve ourselves and, you know, remove bad habits, include good habits. But like, you're not going to wake up every day at 6 a.m. and, do this ridiculous morning routine, cold plunge, sauna, run a marathon. Like, Alex Hormozy had one where he was like, that whole thing, like scrap that. I'm gonna write my gratitude. I'm gonna have a sauna, and I'm gonna like, just wake up and like just sit down at the desk and start doing the thing. Like, don't have to make it so complicated. You know.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I love that. Don't have to make it so complicated. Keep it simple. Subtraction. Again, a lot of that stuff that gets peddled, I tend to question it because I don't see it as pointing in the direction of subtraction and taking away and removing. I
Mm.
see it as more addition. And that's where I begin to go, you're selling something. You're not going, actually, you need less. It's like you need more. Oh, and I have the thing, or I've got the course, or I've got the product, or I've got the thing.
Yeah.
You need
My,
more.
my morning system lately has been I wake up, before I get out of bed, I think about something positive, I think about gratitude, I maybe have a little prayer, I think about what I want to do for the day. My other thing is I don't I might message, like I might reply to a message or so, but I do not go on social media. I do not go on YouTube for at least the first couple of hours. That's like a strict rule. And then I'll usually just go straight to the kitchen and start with making my smoothie and having like lemon water and maybe prepare something to eat, like, oats or something. And then the thing is, after that little morning prayer, write a message just to usually to my girlfriend, good morning, and then go to the kitchen. Usually after that, day is a blank canvas, and every day is different. Sometimes I'll go and I'll practice on the piano. Sometimes I'll practice a lot on the piano. Sometimes I'll go to the shops. Sometimes I'll go for a run. I feel like a run today. Okay. Sometimes I'll go for a bike ride. Sometimes I'll go see a friend. Someday will be like, today I'm going to rehearsal at 11 a.m. And like every day is different, and that's beautiful. But it doesn't have to be like in such a strict way. So that's been my system lately. It's just accepting that things are a bit chaotic and not like how the internet makes it seem they should be, basically.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm. Man, awesome, awesome. Love to hear it. Got an eye on the time. Less.
You haven't had how to go UO. What's been your review of the systems?
Oh, thank you for asking. Well, yeah, no, I'm happy to share. Karen and Lyndon will circle back around. Sash,
Mm.
I saw your message. I want to respect that. Yeah, you've got a migraine. Absolutely don't have to share. If you do want to, pop a digital hand up. Um, Systems. Yeah, I think I started by having a look at the areas that will benefit. I think number one is the I'm very much in a I'm not quite where I have been, and I'm not quite where I'm going. It is a bit of a limbo feeling. I suppose the transition is from focusing on a career as a session guitarist to a career as an artist with my metal band. So I've been building some systems around that. So this week I'm experimenting. I've kind of last night I looked at the week ahead, planned sort of the paid bits. Then I looked at Circus, the name of the band. It's like what are the highest leverage things? It's like, well, writing and being in that space. So right, Friday's completely free all day. That's going to be the writing. Wednesday, right, we need to, we're in the sort of making backing tracks games. It's like, well, okay, Wednesday I've got a few hours in a row backing tracks. Today was meeting up with a producer friend of mine to get advice on making higher quality tracks for playback and how I might be able to split stereo files, etc., and get more stuff to the front of house. So I think the umbrella thing there is systems that keep it at the forefront. Like, don't let what I feel very protective over this because I've noticed I've really had to shift a lot of things internally and externally as well. I've fucking moved out of a flat to open up more time and bandwidth for this. So I think it's protecting it and not, because I started writing again a couple of years ago, and it was interesting to kind of reject it then, and go like, no, 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 the session direction's the one to go. That's the logical way. That's the rational way. But I keep coming back around to like, dude, this is the thing that really wants to be created through you. So protecting it and supporting it and making sure there's consistent time and attention for it. I think that's yeah. I want to keep. I'm going to see how this week goes in terms of kind of working out what are the highest leverage things that need to be done. Find the time, say on a Sunday afternoon, and block it in and be like, that's going to happen on that day. And I think keep getting used to that. Um, on the money side, because I've been in this limbo and have not really been building or doing outreach in terms of session stuff or teaching, etc., etc. That has been. I'm going into a quieter winter and January and February than there previously has been, and I noticed that whilst I surrender into the metal band and I plug into the systems that support it and I get really excited and I'm like, oh, this is great, this is awesome. It's in the back of my mind that there's like, you've got nothing for Jan and Feb. There need to be some money systems, and so I've been exploring that, and I mean to the extent of wondering like, is it 3 days a week in a day job as a system that might be good? Completely remove the need to hustle in the self-employed world and enter the salary world. Like, is that going to work? And really, there's an experimentation. I've come back around to, well, I am a trained musician. I have all this experience as a teacher. I'm a coach. I have skills. And I do have a network in all of those areas. Might be like, okay, you've moved, life's a bit cheaper, skeleton coaching practice, skeleton teaching practice, kind of maybe 5 clients in each. Get some more local residency gigs. It might be that that's the way. But there's a whole load of experimenting. Regardless of what that looks like, I think it's systems that keep the metal band front and center and have the time and attention because that's all it needs. is my time and attention consistently every single week. So whatever protects that is the thing to do. Yeah, I think that's where it's at. Thank you. More on that next week. Karen.
Yeah, well, that was really good because that sort of took away what I was going to say in a way. But I just bloody love you guys. I love the fact that there's something in what all of you have said that I understand from a personal perspective. And it got me thinking that, we talk about I think none of us, we're all quite creative. We've all got unusual jobs. We don't do the 9 to 5. And yet it seems like we beat ourselves up because we're not working like other people do. Well, we don't because we don't want to, because it doesn't suit us. And the chaos thing, it's fine because like there are some people that work in a way that might look chaotic to unimaginative people. That's quite nasty, doesn't it? But like different people that don't work like that. What's wrong with it? If it works for us, and Philip, just to give you some hope, I've been working a system of chaos and I've got so much done just by doing it and not beating myself up over it. And so I just wanted to sort of remind us that it isn't, systems aren't necessarily routines, they're systems, and that there is a difference. And people like us, we don't have the same routines as a lot of people in life. And that brings its own challenges, but it also brings a freedom that we have chosen because that's how we want to live. And there can be a system of flexibility and a system of, well, whatever it might be. And like what you're saying, Will, about keeping it front and center, I've kept the flat front and center. It's meant in my head, it's meant that I'm doing my other stuff. And then I think, oh, I've got 45 minutes. I could just pop round there and do half hour. It's amazing how much stuff I've got just by like, oh, I could do that, rather than, it's not in my diary for now. I have to put things in my diary. Otherwise I will forget to do them or it won't be front and center. But it doesn't matter as long as it gets done in the day, when particularly it gets done, except for the exercise that has to be done before. And sometimes I do more than I think and I have more time. It's working out really well in not trying to fit into the traditional idea of how life should be, because that's boring as shit to me and I don't want to do it. So that's fine. So there's definitely forgiveness for thinking that I needed to be boring. What I see as boring, normal. But I think we're all the same anyway underneath it all. But do you know, I'm not explaining it very well, but I don't have to play that game of, the thing that Reggie Perrin ran away from, basically. Yeah.
The thing that what? Sorry.
Oh, Reggie, you're too young. Tracy might know. She might know. Yay. Reggie Perrin, he just failed.
I do remember. I do remember. I'm old enough to remember.
Yeah. So that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought you explained that well. And even if you didn't, all the energy was there. So thank you.
Oh, bless you.
Awesome. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Playing your own game came up a few times there today as well, I think. So again, that the systems have got to feel like you. It's like it's whatever game you want to play. Yeah, thanks, Karen. All right. 8:31. Let's call it there. There was an exercise but we will do that next week. Yeah, made sense to continue the check-in today. So I'll see you all next Monday. Lots of love. Take care.